Okay, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about the Haitian Revolution, which was a successful insurrection of self-liberated slaves against French colonial rule in a place called Saint-Domingue in what is now known as Haiti. So a little bit of background first. The French seized control of west of the island from Spain in the 1690s. They named it Saint-Domingue. Um, it was a huge economic success due to the production of sugar, coffee, I believe indigo, and cotton. However, one of the reasons for this economic success was also based on the brutal exploitation of slaves. If they hadn't had slaves, there definitely wouldn't have been as much of an economic success because they would have been paying their workers. Um, when the French Revolution occurred in 1789, unrest kind of spread to Saint Domingue as well. This Enlightenment theory that the French Revolution was kind of inspired by was also kind of the inspiration for thoughts in this island as well. Um, there are five important groups to kind of think about in these first couple of moments. So there are the white planters, who obviously are the ones who own the plantations. There are the petit blancs, who are also white, but are people like artisans, shopkeepers, and teachers. And then there are three groups of African descent: those who are free, those who are slaves, and those who had run away. There are about 30,000 free Black people. Around half were mulatto, and many were also wealthier than petit blancs, kind of shown in this picture on the side here. So a number of kind of revolutionary movements started to emerge simultaneously in Saint-Domingue. And in response, the General Assembly in Paris enacted a legislation which gave various colonies autonomy at a local level, which kind of said all local proprietors could be active citizens and could participate in government. However, it was quite ambiguous, and it was interpreted as implying to only the planter class and free citizens of color who owned substantial property. This did exclude the petit blancs, who were not happy about this. And this generated a little bit of a three-sided kind of civil war between planters, Black people who were free, and petit blancs. But soon all three of these groups were challenged by the enslaved Black majority, who kind of rebelled on August 21st, 1791, which slaves began to uprise on northern plantations. At first, they just sought improvements in their condition. They didn't necessarily seek freedom yet. However, as time went on, that was the goal. In 1793, Spain and Britain kind of saw this uprising occur in Saint-Domingue and realized it was a great opportunity to seize Saint-Domingue from the French, as it was an economic kind of power boom. They allied with a man named Francis Toussaint Louverture, who I think I pronounced that correctly, who was a free Black man who was inspired greatly by Enlightenment thought. He even joined the Spanish military as he cared more about the freedom of slaves and the freedom of the colony than his French citizenship. The French saw this kind of support of Spain and Britain and realized they couldn't win against all the rebelling slaves, Spain and Britain. And so in August of 1793, they decided to free the slaves. This caused kind of a turn in allyship of both the slaves and Black leaders. And another thing to really remember in this situation is a lot of the European troops, such as the Spanish and British and the French, all who came here, were greatly affected by diseases such as malaria and yellow fever that they hadn't encountered before. So this kind of gave the slaves an advantage. In 1797, sorry, I'm blocking my power. There we go. In 1797 and 98, Toussaint kind of consolidated power in Saint-Domingue. He looked to essentially restore control to France, but he didn't want to give up complete control to them because that would kind of end up where they were back, where they started. So he decided to act autonomously from the French authorities and kind of attempted to restart the economy, which was not super loved by people in the colony because that did mean sending people back to plantations. And this may seem like it was it, but that is not. There we go. In 1801, a new constitution was issued, which in the colony, which claimed loyalty to France, but with Tussaud as governor for life, with an ability to appoint a successor, which very much alarmed Napoleon, who is shown on our right here. He saw this as a threat after Tussaud kind of called for Black autonomy and a sovereign Black state as well. So in February of 1802, Napoleon sent a French fleet led by his brother-in-law, Charles Leclerc, of more than about 50 ships and 30,000 troops, so quite a few, to attempt to reinsert French control. There were quite a few losses on both sides of both the Haitian army and the French troops, and an uneasy peace was made between Tussaud and Leclerc, with Leclerc saying that slavery wouldn't be restored, Blacks could be officers in the French army, and that the Haitian army could be eventually integrated into the French army. However, in May of 1802, once the French control was established and truces were kind of agreed with leading Black generals, they reestablished slavery in two kind of surrounding towns, including Guadeloupe, and Tussaud was arrested and deported to France, and he did eventually die in prison. After Tussaud was arrested, a man named Jean-Jacques Dessalines, another Black general who was free, submitted to France and was kind of rewarded by being made governor of Saint Marc, which was another surrounding place. However, this didn't stop resistance after he submitted to France, and mass executions continued throughout Haiti. Quite a bit. So after slavery was reestablished in Guadeloupe, it was kind of evident that they were eventually going to do the same thing in Saint-Domingue. So in 1802, October and November, the Black generals Dessalines, as we heard, and a man named Henry Christophe kind of led a renewed revolt against the French troops, who had been severely depleted by disease. They started out with around 40,000 troops, and at this time they only had about 8,000, with them being killed in battle and by diseases such as yellow fever. Leclerc also did end up passing away from yellow fever and was eventually replaced by Bonaparte, who was a main character in the upcoming battles. Because of this, Napoleon recruited a Polish legion of forces, but they did end up kind of turning against the French army. They originally believed France would reward them with Polish independence because they were fighting their own, fighting for their own independence against, I think it was Prussia, Russia, and Austria. And many sought that freedom, and they kind of empathized with the slaves. So they eventually did turn against the French and helped the Haitian army to victory. Since Napoleon was fighting another war against Britain at the time, he couldn't send as many troops because he was busy fighting his own war. And so at the time, the Haitian army had completely overrun Saint-Domingue. And on November 18th, 1803, the French were defeated at the Battle of Vertiers. I'm not good with French names. With kind of the remaining forces being forced out, including Bonaparte, who's the leader at the time. Dessalines was kind of rewarded by being governor for life. He proclaimed himself as emperor, and Haitian independence was declared, and they renamed Saint-Domingue as Haiti because that was its indigenous name. The Haitian army and Haitian forces had lost about 200,000 people, including the majority of that being due to violence that they had faced throughout these battles. So kind of to sum all this up, this revolution was largely inspired by the French Revolution and Enlightenment. It was the only uprising that led to a founding of a state both freed from slavery, ended French control of the colony, and ruled by non-whites and former captives, which is really incredible. And an important thing to remember about this event is that it was several revolutions going on simultaneously. And it is a huge defining moment in the history of the Atlantic world. It is the largest and most successful slave rebellion in the Western Hemisphere. And I think the largest slave uprising in about 2,000 years. Not only this, but like I said before, it was largely influenced by Enlightenment theories, and it challenged kind of long held European beliefs that um, Black people were inferior, and kind of the fact that slaves weren't able to achieve and maintain their own freedom, which was largely proved wrong in this revolution. Um, so it's a really important event to acknowledge when um, looking at kind of French power and the rise of uh, the slaves in this rebellion is really cool. And it was a huge loss to the French as well, because it was a huge economic loss and they lost quite a few forces as well. And that's it. Sorry, I'll move my face again to see that we're excited.